Hola amigos, this is Level 12 and today we are going to be talking about common Hetalia AUs, which I have seen used in a lot of fanfictions and a lot of roleplay starters. So the first question that we're going to answer today is, what is an AU? So AU stands for Alternate Universe, and it's basically just to get out of the canon verse of the normal Hetalia. It's like, so you're not stuck with just the dynamic that's been established in the show, or you're not stuck with that setting or that premise. It's a writerly tool to get you out of the box. So these are some types of AUs, and there's a lot of fantasy AUs, and one I forgot to put on here is Pottertalia. That's another AU. Those are more crossovers, but whatever. So for fantasy, there's a lot of mermaid stuff going on, a lot of royalty, medieval kind of fantasy, kind of Lord of the Rings-esque fantasy kind of royalty stuff going on there. There's a lot of vampire fanfictions and werewolf fanfictions and role plays and stuff like that out there. There's a surprisingly large amount of android stuff out there, like android, robotic, like these weird kind of where one character's like a robot or an android, or not animatronic, but it's a prevalent thing that I've seen, and I'm kind of shocked at it. There's also a soulmate AU, which I think I should have made its own slide for, but basically the soulmate AU is an AU in which you're born with like a mark or something, and it starts to glow when you meet your soulmate, and usually like you meet your soulmate in like a coffee shop or on the train or in passing, and it's very romantic, very kind of horrible. I don't know. I've seen the fan fictions and I've seen the roleplay starters. It's never really been my cup of tea. Other kind of AUs out there is human. Usually the human AUs often involve high school, maybe even Gawk and Hetalia. The Mafia, there's a lot of Mafia stuff. I don't know why. There's a lot of coming home from war stuff, like one character just came home from war and the other is either cheating on them or forgot about them or other stuff, or had been pregnant. You never know. There's also families, like just regular family, like face stuff, like Sue Finn, like very fluffy, very nice. And then I know if they're countries, it's technically not an AU, but if you do super accurate or dark historical and war stuff, that's also very common to see. I kind of like those, but anyways. So there are some AUs which are very deep in the lore of themselves. So the first one we are going to talk about is Omegaverse. So this one's kind of hard to explain, and it's kind of weird. It's an AU in which involves different classes of citizens ranking in Alpha, Beta, Omega. I've even seen it go further down the Greek alphabet with Delta and Zeta, or is it Zeta? Something like that. Where alphas, whether they be a male alpha or a female alpha, get omegas, whether it be male or female, pregnant. It's often involved in family-oriented role plays or stories, and 9 times out of 10 will involve impreg, simply because that's how this works. I'm pretty sure this specific type of AU was created with Star Trek, because it would have to be, or Teen Wolf, or something like that, and it's usually prevalent in fandoms with a lot of male characters. If you look up Omegaverse, you're going to see a lot of fan art of Hetalia, Free, Boku no Hero Academia characters, even BTS, like being able to get pregnant. The Omegaverse is a very odd and weirdly medical and weirdly accurate in quotation marks, representation of what it would be like if males could get pregnant. And the female aspect is a lot less. I've started to see Doki Doki Literature Club Omegaverse fan art. It's very weird and very nuanced, but it had interested me so much when I first heard about it that I went headfirst into the lore of this, and I would love if y'all would want another video on the Omegaverse. I could do it for y'all. Just saying, it could work. But this is pre-recorded, so you might have to wait a video or two. So next is Cardverse, which is specific to Hetalia, which I didn't know that at the time. I'd just seen it around a lot. So it's an AU in which that mirrors a deck of cards involving 4 kingdoms, which are the suits, the heart, the diamond, the club, and the spade, with the ruling monarchy being the king, the queen, the jack. That's supposed to say the ace. I made this at 3 a.m. Leave me alone. I got up. I went to bed at like 3 a.m. I made this at probably 1 a.m. So it's specific to Hetalia, and I believe it started in 2 different fanfictions, and I'll leave some links below to where you can, because I can't explain it very well in this singular video, but I'll leave some links below to where you can go and look it up for yourselves. In some iterations that I have seen out in the wild, our monarchs are born with a tattoo of their suit, so if they were the spade, they would have, you know, the spade shovelly thing on their neck or something. They were born to find a soulmate, kind of mixing with the soulmate AU, and it's usually medieval kind of setting, not very modern, or not the ones I've seen. It's heavily fanon. Like, all of this stuff is really deep in the fanon, and I think it hasn't popped up that much for me is because I am not that deeply involved with the fandom outside of Instagram, and most people on Instagram just make art. So it's more heavily prevalent on like fanfiction websites like Archive of Our Own or fanfiction.net or maybe even Wattpad. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not that deep in the fandom anymore. I know it's very heavily prevalent on DeviantArt, and if I checked up on the fandom more than I do, I'd find more of it, but I digress. It's probably also a lot on Tumblr, if you're on Tumblr, but it's very specific to Hetalia, and there's been entire cosplay groups cosplaying Cardverse, and like, let me tell you, those cosplays are very nice, and I like them a lot. So I know Nationverse may not be the most exciting AU, but it's an AU that involves Hetalia characters as nations as they appear in the show. Again, not the most exciting AU, doesn't really get away from the canon of the show, because it does typically follow canon relationships in terms of, you know, behaviors and interactions and how they feel about certain characters, though they may change based on events in the plot. And sometimes they're involved with humans, sometimes not, and by this I mean sometimes there will be interactions with human people, sometimes there won't be. It's all depending. Again, this isn't the most exciting AU, but exciting things can be done with it, such as telling actual historical events with Hetalia characters, or, you know, starting historical events with Hetalia characters, or changing the courses of history with Hetalia characters. I don't know. This is typically what you'll see. When I read fanfictions, I looked up very specific characters, and I never looked up fanfictions for plot. I looked them up for, you know, lemons and fluff and stuff like that, so I never really got too deep in the lore of these types of stories, but I digress. Again, is the term lemon still in use? Because I hate the other word. I hate the word that replaced lemon. I really hope the word lemon is still in use. Anyways, so next are human AUs. Again, they're very boring compared to the other ones I talked about, and it's any AU which Hetalia characters are 100% human and have no relation to their personification other than being that nationality, i.e. Switzerland being Swiss. So whenever you play Humanverse, you usually play in America or Europe, and it's very weird to have all these characters that are of different nationalities all going to one place, but it's fine. I digress. For characters with canon human names, those names are used. So, like, America would be Alfred, even though I hate that's his name because it's so boring and nerdy. For those without canon human names, fanon names are usually used. So for, like, Liechtenstein, most people usually use Lily. For Switzerland, I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a canon name, but I've usually seen people use Vash, like V-A-S-H or V-A-S-C-H, I'm not sure. It's a thing, because you gotta call them something, and you can't just be like, what up, Switzerland? And the guy, it doesn't work that way. So they still portray traits from the canon, such as America being overwhelmingly American and needing food and all that horrible stuff. Anyways, but some things may be changed, such as like China, he looks to be about, like 20 or something. There's no way his bones are going to be achy and creaky at 20. Like, sometimes things like that are changed, but overall, they're still the same person, just human with a squishy body. Anyways, so that's it for this video. Again, if you want a more in-depth video on Omegaverse, I will give it to you. But don't just randomly look that up, because if y'all have ever taken a sex ed class where, like, they have the oddly medical diagrams of genitalia and babies and stuff like that, it's very creepy. Sorry, I'm trying to listen. It's very creepy. And that's for some reason where the Omegaverse went with some of its stuff, and it's weird and I don't like it, but again, I digress. But I still got heavily into it, nonetheless. Anyways, I hope this helps y'all, for new Hetalia members and old. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more random fandom things. Ciao, chicos.